Integrity. Yeah, we know. We love being
We're
nice.
good. All right. Welcome. Good evening, and welcome to Island Origins Live. I'm Calibe, and this is
Sexy man
Sexy
here
Man.
tonight.
All right. So we have a great show lined up for you because we're talking politics, one of my favorite subjects.
Not one of her favorite subjects.
It is my
people.
favorite. I don't have MSNBC or Fox, and one of those I wouldn't be watching even if I had it. But we are going to talk some politics this evening, but we're talking about local politics today. So we won't get into the big orange type. We'll talk about the...
But I want people who are watching to be clear that things we talk about today are relevant in any country. You could be in Australia, you could be in the UK, you could be in America.
But
Talking about what your platforms are, what your responsibilities are, what you're going to do for your constituents, and what is it that inspires you and motivates you to be a politician or to be in the political realm is relevant no matter where you are. So
yeah, and that's the thing. It's about service. You hear politics, you think, oh, lawyer, evil people, whatever. The typical standard bad things, but the reality is it's the people who step up and give service. Who are the politicians, whether they're, a legal background is helpful because they can navigate where you and I cannot. And so we want to dig a little bit deeper into the people who decide that they're going to give service in politics. And so we have invited on two of our local Broward in South Florida politicians, Mr. John Beckford and Miss Denise D. Grant.
yeah, before you even bring them on, hold on. It's a broad like it's not Lauderhill we're defending. Listen,
Lauderhill.
for those of you who are watching on Jamaicans.com and for those of you who are watching on Island Origins Facebook page, I really want to make sure that we understand that there's a city in Broward County. There are 31 cities in Broward, one of which is Fort Lauderdale, another one of which is Lauderhill.
Are you a tour guide sometimes?
I am. And Lauderhill is what we affectionately like to call Jamaica Hill because it has inhabited by a lot of us. There's a very diverse audience in Lauderhill, but specifically some Jamaican people. And a lot of Caribbean people.
You sound like you're Korean fever because we're on Jamaicans.com.
No, sir. Someone talk all the time. Please. All right, now you can turn around and let these people smile for the camera. And so, welcome, John. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
So I'm going to introduce you each, you both, and I'm going to start with the ladies first.
Absolutely.
Denise D. Grant was born in Jamaica, raised in New Jersey, and is now a resident of Lauderhill. She's a professional at organizational leadership and international relations. I'm going to bite my tongue saying all of these things. Cultural diversity and diplomacy, communications and business management. She loves her 11-year-old son, people, community and government, and she has endorsements from Congressman Alcee Hastings, Vice Mayor Howard Berger, County Commissioner Dale Holness, and a long list of others. Denise, welcome to the show. Can you please give us your elevator pitch, 30 seconds or less, who you are in your own words?
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Denise D. Grant. That's very important because that's what's on the ballot. I am running for City Commissioner of Lauderhill, Seat 4. And the reason I'm running is because I love people, I love community, and I respect government. And I know that I have the skill set and the ability to be able to serve. And I want to be able to utilize this platform to serve on a larger scale.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
So now, before you introduce John, I want to say something.
Nice and concise.
I have to pause. Denise, where you find time to be a mother? You have about 1,000 committees and things that you're doing. I know how much you care about your son.
1,024.
Yeah, it was a whole. I didn't even realize you were.
So when
on
you read it,
so,
what did you think?
I was like, no, I was thinking to myself, when do you have time for your life? You're serving so much.
Yeah.
So before we get to John, I know John a long time and I know John's story, but I just want to understand, how do you fit all of those things in?
I don't consider it to be work. It is really a part of who I am. Service has always been something that I did.
But is it time commitment?
The time, we have 24 hours in a day. And we have to find time to do things that are important to us. And as you know, you guys know I have an 11-year-old.
You have a lot of things important to you, Denise.
And so that's important too. But one of the things though, in this particular hour while I'm campaigning, he understands that we're a team. I'm a single mom too.
Yeah,
right?
I
So
see that. I see
understand
how
the
you team
struggle.
with it. Yeah.
But he understands that we are a team, and right now, some things have to be put on the back burner in order for me to accomplish this task. And once that is done, then some other things will be opened up. So we're just taking it one step at a time.
All right.
So what we're talking about here, because Mr. Sexyman as usual jumps around.
I'm always dragging the conversation
So
left. But
David is close friends with both of our candidates.
Yeah.
And so-
Absolutely.
but when we were looking, our pre-production, we saw a list of, organizations and
Yeah.
boards and what have you that Denise is a part of. And it was pretty extensive, as we said, like 1,024 or something like that.
It's plenty.
So it's just a lot that's going on in your life.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everything that you're doing
Thank
inside
you.
of the community.
Thank you.
Mr. Beckford, Sexy Bexy. All right. Can I say that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You can.
Sexy Bexy.
Makes it,
Yeah.
and there you have
You're
it.
not
That's the
taking, you're not
new
taking
thing.
David's
No, no,
position.
Wait a minute.
No,
Show
no,
down.
no,
All right.
never. Somehow she wrote that in the script.
Just kidding. All right. So, Mr. Beckford, Mr. John Beckford was born in California to Jamaican parents. Fun fact: he is is this true? Second cousin to the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
Yes.
Very nice.
Jamaicans.com viewers will like that. All right. John and his wife Paula have lived together in Lauderhill for over 14 years, raising their children. Love these names, right? Che, John, and Gigi. That's very Jamaican. Real Jamaican thing. All right. He has been the president of the Lauderhill Chamber of Commerce and advocate for local businesses. Very importantly, are we allowed to talk about this? You love the Bacchanal? Are we allowed to talk about
Carnival.
It's part of my platform,
The carnival.
arts and culture.
Okay,
Yes.
it's arts and culture. It's not
So-
about the whining or the feathers or the swimsuits,
Right,
right?
there
It's
we
about
go.
the arts and
And,
culture.
and the economic development
Economic.
Very important.
that carnival brings to
Don't
South
worry about the
Florida.
revelry or the debauchery. It's all about the arts. But carnival is an important part of our culture. You have received as well major endorsements from the Fraternal Order of Police, the Police Benevolent Association, and the International Association for Firefighters. Mr. Beckford, welcome to the show. And please give us your...
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Please give us your 30-second pitch. You can talk right to the camera as to who you would like to introduce yourself as. And
Like Denise, a humble servant, and I have 5 simple pillars to my platform: education, home ownership, safety, economic development. We touched on that,
Right.
and of course, arts and culture.
right. Okay. Thank you, sir. So first off, David started off with introducing what the city of Lauderhill is all about. And both of you are running for seats as commissioners.
Correct.
No,
Not running against each other.
2 different
Right,
commissioner
2 different
seats.
seats. Right.
So I wanted to understand that a little bit more. And so the kind of explanation of what a commissioner is, it says in a city commission government, voters elect a small commission, typically 5 to 7 members, and these commissioners are responsible for taxation, appropriations, ordinances, and other general functions. All of that stuff sounds boring to the regular person. So explain, break it down for us. What is appropriation, ordinance, and other general functions? What does that mean?
Well, I will say that for me, I think that a commissioner is essentially the voice for the community.
Okay.
Right. And so we just make it really plain, because oftentimes we're like, what do you really do?
Right.
We are elected because we're elected by people who really don't have the time necessarily to go to town hall meetings and commission meetings and all of that. So they select someone that can essentially be that voice, that can go and speak before the people, that can speak whether it's local, whether it's to state, whether it's federal, to be able to bring the issues that the people have in the community and then find solutions to be able to assist. Yeah.
Right. He's ready.
Are you that man?
Yes.
So
Well,
here, you want to speak first, or you want me
Yes,
to go?
let's
all
have
right,
our guest.
John, you go first,
Please.
and I want to come
right,
back.
'cause
I want to talk about
you know,
what.
Right. So usually, my format will be. I mean, we didn't rehearse. This is not rehearsed, okay, folks. So it's live, but I mean, I'll always defer to ladies first in answering a question. And then, provided Denise doesn't gobble up the entire response, I will then add or piggyback on her response.
No, I didn't say nothing like that. Nothing like that.
just to piggyback on what Denise was saying, yes, we represent the people, and so for myself, for the last 15 years, just having served in the community in various capacities, as an elected official, it really allows you to elevate what has already been done. I'm the candidate that comes to the table ready to go to work on the first day. There's no learning curve because I've worked in government, I've served on various committees, I understand, and I'm solutions driven. That's always like one of my tenets, very, very solutions driven. And at the end of the day, folks know that they can call on me. The other day I was walking in our sports park, and the canal that borders the city of Sunrise and Lauderhill, a lot of people don't know it's Sunrise. They think it's Lauderhill, and the grass is unkept, and so I came across not one, not two, but 6 different ladies that use the track to exercise. And they were like, John, you got to do something. I mean, I'm afraid of the snakes and this and that and so forth. Well, guess what? John made a call. John made it happen. Even though it's not in the city of Lauderhill, the grass is going to be cut and it's going to be taken care of.
The grass is greener on John Beckford's side. That's our new slogan.
So you'll always be better with Beckford at the end of the day.
And it's true. It's definitely true. That's what you do. You find there are always going to be issues. And one of the things that I realized, I ran in 2014. I did not win, but I did extremely well. I got about 44% of the vote against an incumbent and 2 other guys, right? So the girls are always doing it. So, so this time around, I believe that this is the hour, and I'm going to do extremely well. But one of the things, though, is that I realized when I was walking and canvassing the communities that even though we have about 72,000 residents in Lauderhill, we have many different neighborhoods. There's a common denominator in terms of issues, but every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood has their own issue. So on the east side, they may have a little bit more issues with crime versus on the west side. But that's why my slogan is One Voice, One Lauderhill, because you want to be able to be on one accord. And you want all of Lauderhill to be able to, when you speak of Lauderhill, you're not talking about division.
Right.
The east is getting less than the west. You want to make sure that we are all together.
So it brings me back to some of what I want to ask. So every city is run differently, and I'm going to speak broader than Lauderhill for a second, but I want to get, because I still am resonating on that original question in terms of what does a city commissioner do? Now, I am actually obviously intimately aware of what city commissioners do, but I want to, for the people who are watching, I want to see if we can get to a greater understanding. In some cities, you represent a section of the city, as in a district or something within that city. In Lauderhill, is it at large, or do you represent a specific area for your city?
Do you want me to answer? Or you
You're on a super line. We're in a conversation. Just answer.
It used to be districts, and then they moved away from that. I can't quote the exact year.
Okay.
And I know that there's been talk, I've heard, while I'm knocking on doors, that some people want to go back to having districts because they feel
the person responsible,
the candidate that lives comes from
area.
Northwest Lauderhill doesn't really feel the pain of the folks in the southeast side of Lauderhill, and so there is talk of going back to this districting. So but right now it is citywide. You have 4 seats in the mayor, and you run citywide and not by a district.
Right, you do run citywide. It's not districts, and as John mentioned, there are certain areas in Lauderhill. There is a particular. There are 3 communities, actually 3 neighborhoods in Lauderhill been incorporated since 2005, and there are times when the conversation is they feel as if they're the stepchildren in some respect. So there are areas in Lauderhill where people are talking about trying to have single district in, but the majority of the community does not want that because they feel as if it would bring division.
Single districting means?
Meaning that commissioners will be responsible for a section.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? Okay. And we understand why they would want that.
Absolutely understand why, which is what I'm getting to when I asked, because I wanted to further the discussion about what you do as a commissioner. So in the end, I want to make sure that people can understand every city has a city manager.
Exactly.
That carries out the wishes of the commissioners. So I just want to be sure that we get this clear for everyone watching. So as a group, the commissioners will meet at the occasion, at the specific time, and they will make decisions on behalf of the city. But then the city staff will carry out that work.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm telling you, you're on point. And so in Broward County, there are only probably a few cities that
have a strong mayor.
And what we mean by a strong mayor is that the mayor really is the one who's making the executive decisions as it relates to the city. In Lauderhill, and Plantation is one of those cities, right?
That would be a good example.
Yes. In Lauderhill, we actually have our city manager that really makes the executive decision. So the final decision always is it ends with the city manager. However, the commission are the voice for the people, and that's when I spoke of there being the voice for the people. They bring the issues to the city, and then
I love where this has led us. So this is my final point here. So in Lauderhill specifically now, what you're saying to me is that if 5 commissioners vote one way, you still can have an executive decision by the city manager to go in a different direction? Or is it only when it's a tiebreaker?
Only when there is...
No, the city manager is a non-voting position.
Right.
So the commissioners represent the people. So you listen to the people. We have a meeting. As commissioners, you're not allowed to speak unless it's in a public forum. So that's when you have the commission meetings, and the item is discussed. And then it's shared, amongst the dais, the 5 sitting, 4 commissioners and the mayor, and then they communicate in public to the city manager. Well, here's the wish or here's the desire. The commissioners really are only responsible for communicating with the city attorney, the city manager, and the city clerk. Okay. As an elected official, once elected, we're not allowed to, and we should not, we can't go to the rank and file and staff and just go downstairs and say, hey, no. It's if you want something done, right. It has to be, during the commission meeting, and again, those 3 individuals are who, the city commissioners really communicate with, and not the individual rank and file of staff.
All right, so it's great that we're getting into the sausage, but for those of us who
this was important
don't have
clarity.
brain capacity,
for
the depth of detail that you're getting
No
into.
depth of detail required.
Yeah.
You elect the individual or individuals
Yes.
whom you know
Yes.
can carry out, right, what it is that you seek and what it is that you need as a resident.
Love that. Okay. All right.
I love that. That's it in a nutshell. So who's going to be that person that has the negotiating skills, the tact, the professionalism, the experience to be able to carry your message in an effective way, so that he or she's other colleagues that sit on the dais will vote along with what agenda item you bring to the table.
I love the segue into the next question.
And make it happen.
But in the segue, because I know the next question is, what we're going to do, we're going to have both of you look into this camera and tell everyone watching to share this feed.
I was going to do that too. Right? Do that. You guys
do that right here. Say share this feed.
Ladies first.
We're encouraging you to share this feed. Make sure that you are sharing it on Facebook. You're letting your friends know on Twitter,
tag
on
a
WhatsApp,
friend.
tag a friend. Do whatever is
That's
necessary in order to get this out.
And vote.
And vote.
Right.
Vote. November 6th. November 6th, 2018 is general election. Yes.
And if you don't live in Lauderhill, if you have a friend or a family member who lives there, tell them to go vote as well, right?
Absolutely.
For these 2.
Very important.
Even better than doing that, just tell them to go and do the research. You will find the best candidates. We knew how to find them.
Right, and this is part of your research.
Right.
I mean, part of me, even I'm involved in politics sometimes, not to the nitty-gritty details, right? But part of it is, who do I know and who do I trust? As John just said,
Trust is huge.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing here. You have come to this forum so that you can sit and talk to a group of people. Jamaicans.com has a huge audience and following, and so you're getting to know people. This is part of their research. Good for you.
It's interesting. My mother said the other day, as you're campaigning, you'll go through some really challenges, right? Great challenges, and she said, boy, politics hard and wicked. She said, I thought this was like missionary work. But when you look at it, it should be like missionary work, right? It's just supposed to be about serving the people. I think it's just that there's a negative connotation that's associated with politics because some individuals that might not have done the right things. But everyone is not the same.
Right.
And we're definitely not the same.
Not
No.
at all, but
Right?
you're both
Right,
great.
Beckford?
Yes.
All right, so going on
No.
to the next question. So John had a nice segue a while ago. We were talking, I did have a question about the importance of local politics, but I think you have kind of covered it very well in your introductory statements already. Right? So I won't get into that one, but I believe in starting with the end in mind. So what would you...
Actually, before you go too far, because local elections are so important,
Yes.
I think for the benefit of the audience, that it is important that we say it again.
Yes.
Local election matters, because at the end of the day, whether it's that unkept grass or the pothole, you know what I'm saying, or anything,
flooding.
or the flooding issue,
Right.
and so forth. You're not calling Tallahassee, and you're not calling Washington.
Let's
Okay?
talk about that a little bit
So-
more before
Very
we go on
important.
to the long view then. So people get engaged. This is a documented fact. People get all excited and engaged when it's presidential politics and the big bombastic interviews on CNN and what have you, but they're not turning on Michael Putney or Island Origins Live necessarily to see what's going on with the local politics.
Right.
Why is it so much more? You talk about the grass and whatever. That's kind of like a basic example, but why is it so much more important for us to engage in local politics than even the national level sometimes?
It's really simple, because local politicians are the ones that you see.
Right.
They're the ones that will be able to address your local issues. You may not be able to take up the phone and call, say, Tallahassee, but your local politician can do that,
Right.
because they have built that relationship. And when we speak of the voice, that's essentially what your local politician is. The voice to be able to carry out those specific issues that we have and being able to find solutions. So though, in fact, I had a conversation the other day with let's say an individual who's very strong in Tallahassee, and one of her concerns was the fact that a lot of people in local politics don't even come to Tallahassee to lobby for issues. They stay, unfortunately. And we can do that. If there's an issue as it pertains to education and you need a little bit more money, you speak to your commissioners.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, they
Go
ahead,
I want to say something. I think that is important, Denise and John, that a lot of times people don't understand the importance of collaborative spirit. Somebody would say, I see both of you have on your platforms education, and I know that both of you have children.
Sure.
So obviously education is going to be important to you. But we know that we have a school board whose responsibility is to look about things like education. However, I think it is absolutely critical that we have passions about things and we don't just leave them alone, because sure, there are other people who are responsible for those things. But if you're truly the voice of a community, you have to address all the things that concern the community.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's where people get lost. They don't understand how important you are. The very first involvement with politics that anyone should have, because it's a gateway to get all the other steps.
to get all
Yeah.
the other
So
steps.
it is
First line of defense.
First line, yeah.
First line of
First
defense.
Yeah.
First line of defense.
If you want to get if you want your life to improve in your community, the first place that you should be responsible to get in touch with politics is with the people who are right there, your local government. And that's the city commission.
And that's why it's important that you elect the right persons.
Yeah.
And what John spoke of, diplomacy, that's essential. Because you can have all the skill sets and the gifts and all of that, but if you don't know how to work with people, you're not going to get anything done.
Key.
Okay.
Say that again. Say that again. Because
I don't want to take up all the
you
time.
have
No,
some.
no, no.
I understand.
I'm just over here thinking
you have folks running for
if-
office that I'm
It's
sorry, but
very
it's-
important. If you don't know how to work with other people,
Yeah.
you'll never get anything done.
Yeah.
I can be on the commission and have a very strong point and have something that I think is important for the community. But if my colleagues don't agree with me, or they don't feel as if they don't want to listen to my message because I am not a person that they can work with, I'm not a team player,
arrogance.
I'm at whatever the
You know,
issue may be,
oof.
then guess what? The community suffers.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
they will turn a blind eye to you,
Yeah.
and also to the message, simply because you don't know how to work with people. So when you're electing your voice or you're electing your commissioner, make sure that you do your due diligence and you also know who the individuals are and watch how they deal with people. People may not remember what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel.
Right.
You know
Yes,
something?
agree.
I know there's a lot of stuff we're gonna do. I want to say one thing to people. So if Magic, if you're switching to me for a second on the screen, I
And
just
you know
want
I'm not even
to.
paying
I want to
attention
say
to the
something.
camera.
I know.
Like Calibe.
So here's what I'm gonna tell for people. Again, we're gonna switch topics slightly, but I want to say this right now. It's important that once you identify the people that you know are the right people, then support them in any way that you can by sharing their platform, giving a donation, getting, walking with them, whatever it is that you can do to then further your own community by your own involvement, you will become a part of the greater solution. So I just think that it's important that wherever you are, whether you are in Lauderhill or you're in Florida or you are anywhere else in the world, become a part. I mean, without question, I can tell you that it has enhanced my life by being involved in what is happening around me politically. And there is no question, that, yes.
I'm producing.
Producing,
sorry, yeah.
yes. On the side. There's no question that it is really, really, really important that when you get involved, you get a lot more done for yourself as well. So it's almost by
And
giving.
for the business that you're working on. Thanks, David.
Yeah, no, but it is real. It is real. So I
and
leave that.
David is our company politician. Like he knows everybody, and he knows how to get through all of the things. So
That is true.
So yeah, it's very important. I'm just gonna talk about some of the questions that are coming in here. Somebody asked, can I vote from DC? No, we're talking about local politics. So please don't vote for a lot of
They
them.
might vote someone in Lauderhill.
But again,
even if you don't know that person, you can always like our pages and you can also donate. Because at the end of the day, it's a heavy lift to make sure that you as candidates, we send the message out to folks. And so donations, I mean, Obama, he won, it was $5 on average, right? When he was running for office. And so your $5 will make a difference, if it comes from 20,000 people. I'm maxed out on Facebook with friends. Okay, so if the 5,000 people each give me $5, okay, imagine what I could do with that, war chest to then buy more ads, pay for more flyers, and so forth. And signs are.
So I know we have the donation and stuff information on screen there, Denise. If you want to do your pitch before we go to our break.
I think I've been talking so much.
No, your Patreon. No, we have a break, but yeah, do you have a pitch for your donation site or how people can find you or what have you?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Let's see here. Well, my donation, you can go on my website. It's denisegrant4lauderhill.com. Also, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I believe Snapchat as well. I have a social media person.
Snapchat. We're live. You said Snapchat.
And just for clarity, Denise, is a number 4 or FOR? When you say the website, it's Denise Grant.
It's the number 4.
The number 4.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. All right. Yes. And most of this stuff is up on the page.
Screen,
We're gonna go to commercial break right now. So this episode of you did yours. Didn't you do yours?
I didn't do my Beckford for Lauderhill.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. It's on the camera. It's on the thing. It's on the screen.
Yeah, but Denise got to actually look in the camera
go ahead and do yours.
So I need to look in the camera and say, listen.
You have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
My name is John Beckford, and I approve this message. Go to BeckfordForLauderhill.com. That's Beckford, the number 4, Lauderhill.com. There, you can click on the donate button. $5 is all I ask today. Okay? $5 will make a difference in buying more signs and help us spread the message. Beckford for a better Lauderhill seat too.
But if you have 50, send the 50. All right, so this episode of Island Origins Live is brought to you by DMR Media. Those are our very good friends, Magic and Judy. If you've been seeing all this great camera work, all of the lower thirds and the fancy camera switching and all that stuff going on, that's coming to you courtesy of our friends at DMR. Judy's the producer, Magic is the camera person, and they can do this for you as well. So if you have a political forum that you'd like to broadcast, etc., drone work, they do lots of video editing, etc., please call them, visit their website. It's dmr4u.com. The episode is also brought to you by Island Origins magazine, the award-winning, David, hold on, product placement here, it's on the screen, but Island Origins, the award-winning. So if y'all didn't know, we just won 3 awards from the Florida Magazine Association. We won in Best New Magazine in the state of Florida, Best New Magazine, and 2 Best Writing features, including one from Carla Hill, our dear friend who is now off to Evine as a host, and another cultural, you guys are both cultural, and an article on the music of the Caribbean. So congrats to us. Please do visit the website. It's islandoriginsmag.com/subscribe. If you are watching, please go to Island Origins, at Island Origins on Facebook. Go ahead and like our page, and let's get back to the show. All right, so we're gonna get back on topic because we have only half an hour left at this point. So we were gonna get into the long view, right? What is your vision for Lauderhill in the next 5-10 years? Whatever you can do while you are commissioner and beyond.
Okay, all right. I've been fortunate that back in 2006, 2007, I was a part of the city's master plan task force. So a lot of the renaissance that you see today was actually a part of the blueprint that a team of us, dedicated residents that really care about, Lauderhill, we kind of put that together. And I'm like a proud parent, with some of the things that are happening, but we're not done. Right. I mean, there's a lot more in store, and I don't want to give everything away, but the chamber had a nice tagline: Lauderhill, take a closer look. Right. And really, if you take a closer look, you will see that Lauderhill is really growing and coming of age and elevating its footprint. We've done something as novel as bringing on board a public relations firm to help us, again, elevate the city and who we are, as a people. So I'm really excited, about that.
Right.
And just to piggyback off of what Mr. Beckford just said, Lauderhill is a beautiful, beautiful city. And I think that we need to be able to change the narrative, because oftentimes you just hear the negative things about Lauderhill and not really knowing that there's great things that are happening in Lauderhill. So one of the things that I want to do is be able to work with the Chamber of Commerce, and I know John is a part of that organization, to be able to get that mission and that message out, right? And so we need to be able to let them know, number one, did you realize that Lauderhill is also the cricket capital of the United States? Did you know that, Calibe?
I knew that we have the only certified cricket stadium.
International.
Yeah, internationally certified cricket stadium in the United States.
Yeah, so that is something that is very important, because we can utilize that particular stadium to be able to bring in people to visit Lauderhill, to be able to see all the great things that are going on in Lauderhill. For me, I think that 2 things that have to happen in order for a city to really be strong. Number one, the people have to be engaged. They have to be vibrant. Yes. They have to be informed. They have to know what it is that's going on in their city, and they have to care. And number 2, the economy has to be strong. The bottom line. If you have a home, and no matter how much love you have in that home, and there's no money, there's going to be some form of neglect, right? Yes. There's going to be something that's short. So I want to be able to be that commissioner that helps to maintain the economy in Lauderhill, because we have a good economy, but of course you can always build on that. We have about 5,000 businesses in Lauderhill, and some of them are closing down. And it's really because demographics have changed. Years ago, we had a Lauderhill that was predominantly Caucasian, predominantly Jewish. Now we have about 70% Black. Which consists of African Americans, Caribbeans, and so on. So because the demographics have changed, there's nothing we can do about it. We have to just acknowledge it. And therefore, we have to make sure that businesses that are coming into Lauderhill are going to survive and thrive.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into business. Because both of you are engaged in the business community, and both of you have economic development on your platforms.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to start with you, John, Mr. Beckford.
Please, John.
Thank you so much. I should have asked. All right. So, John, you are a past president of the Lauderhill Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Yes. Let me hi, Lauderhill Chamber. Good evening to all my members, to the board. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you have an integral knowledge of even the issues of, I guess both of you do, of the issues of the business community there.
Absolutely.
What do you plan to do as commissioner that would enhance, entrepreneurship in the area as well as just spur employment in the area?
I'll start with the first. Well, first, let me say this. When I was running the chamber,
Yes.
I've served in the capacity of both board chairman and executive director. And of course, as folks know, a Chamber of Commerce, its prime directive and mission is to recruit and retain businesses
Right.
in Lauderhill. I visited so many businesses during my tenure when I was at the helm of the chamber, okay, that the membership grew from 48 members to over 500 members within the first 18 months under my leadership. Why? Because I was able to go out and resonate with the businesses that are there, the businesses that were struggling. And this is, right at the tail end of the recession back in 2008, okay? And so I bring that experience, having walked, knocking on the doors of the commercial corridors that make up Lauderhill, to really listen to what it is that whether you're a landlord or whether you're a resident that owns a business, even if you don't own a business that's in Lauderhill, but you are a Lauderhill resident, from an economic development standpoint, still very important to make sure that the city supports you in what you do. Why? Because the profit that you make is going to come back to Lauderhill.
Right.
You bank in Lauderhill, and you're going to dine in Lauderhill and shop in Lauderhill. And so it was, and one of the things that the city didn't have at the time, they didn't have a leg up for a resident owner or a Lauderhill based business. And so I went before the commission and fought for those companies, to make sure that at the end of the day, when you are applying for or responding to one of those RFPs, the requests for proposals, that as a Lauderhill resident, you got spotted 5 points, because that's just the right thing to do. I mean, because when the tide rises, it raises all ships. All ships. And so for me, I had to make sure that the commissioners understood that we had to change. You have to adapt. You have to make sure that at the end of the day, Lauderhill is business friendly. And I'm still hearing that. And we are, again, I have some common sense ideas and approach, to solving some of the solutions on that commercial corridor. I don't want to give everything away, but
give away enough that we go like we want jobs.
But that experience, just having run the Chamber of Commerce, and coupled with serving on the city's master plan task force, I currently sit on the city's code enforcement board, and I've volunteered and I've worked with just about every commissioner, and I do have endorsements from 3 sitting commissioners. No candidate has ever done that before. And you mentioned earlier
that's
that,
not true. I have those endorsements.
Thanks, Denise.
Well,
I like that.
He said
before, not now.
Before the 2 people on our sets.
And no fighting. Let me jump in and say this, because I think it's important. During John's tenure at the chamber, he made it such that it was friendly for me to be involved with the chamber. Yeah, no, the hands. I have it over to the right, away from the camera. But I want to say this specifically because John encourages people to be involved, regardless of where you are. It's the Lauderhill Regional Chamber of Commerce. They expand beyond the borders of Lauderhill, and I think that was very, 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 very pertinent that I mention it, because part of why I have the trust that I have in someone like John is that he has demonstrated an unselfish nature. He has demonstrated that he wants to see others in business succeed. So I hear you talking about the things that you want to do, but I can tell you, endorsement from someone who has received your support and help to grow my business such that it's reached where it is today. So I think without question.
Plus, you love the bacchanal. I do have to hold on. There are people. I'm coming back to you, Denise. But there are some people from the Lauderhill Regional Chamber who are on the live. I saw Howard Berger on there. There are people in your community
Our
who
Vice
are
Mayor,
watching.
Vice Mayor
So
Berger.
I'm gonna ask you all to share. Tag some people because this is a conversation that you do want to hear. You want the other people in your community to know who you're voting for and why you're voting for them. So just go ahead and hit the share button, and we're coming back to Denise.
Yes.
Yes.
And as John said, you want to attract and retain businesses.
Yes.
And some of the issues when the businesses are closing down, one of the things that I want to do is be able to have a exit interview. Mm-hmm. Just like when you leave a job, what are the issues? Why did you have to leave that job? What are the grievances? You'll be able to learn from that. Mm-hmm. And when you get that information, there's some things that you probably can't help with, demographics, nothing you can do about it. But if there's something that you can assist with, then you'll be able to help them to find the resources in order for them to be successful. Because when they are successful, as he mentioned, the whole city is successful. The tax money goes back into the city that helps our youth and our senior programs, right? And those are some of their most vulnerable population. One of the things that I have done as well is businesses, I think, is very important coming into Lauderhill, but you want to make sure that the community is conducive enough to be able to have those businesses come in. And I assisted 7-Eleven in the process of becoming, so they're actually breaking ground soon in Lauderhill. I sat with them and I said to them, listen, I will help you with this process, but one of the things that you have to promise is that you are, once you get here, you're going to look for a franchisee within the city. And they have promised to do so. It doesn't mean that they're gonna find someone here, but at the same token, they are looking. So that's one of the things that I want to do is make sure that any business that comes into Lauderhill, that a percentage of their employees are from Lauderhill. Right. And that's about job creation.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we talked about a renaissance. I loved that word, and you can see it when you're in Lauderhill. There's a facelift happening, and I know on your platform you talked about beautification, and there was infrastructure, discussions going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I might be jumping ahead of you, but wait till you see what the city is going to do with that corridor on 38th Avenue between 12th Street and 19th Street. We're going to have our own Las Olas Boulevard, okay?
Watch out now.
Listen, watch and see. Remember, Lauderhill, take a closer look. Okay, I'm telling you.
Jump ahead and talk about
what is coming down the pipe for Lauderhill is phenomenal. Okay,
and talk about what you not what is already, but what you see and what you're going to do as because you're going to win, right? So what you're going to do as commissioners to enhance that process, or aside from that, the area, you talked about one side of Lauderhill has this benefit and the other side is not so fortunate. How are you going to improve the overall look and feel and facility of Lauderhill for the residents there?
There is, and I hate to belabor on talk of division. It's one Lauderhill.
Right.
It's my Lauderhill. It's Denise's Lauderhill. It's our Lauderhill. And whether you're from the southwest corner of Lauderhill, because if you look at the map, Lauderhill looks like a step. It goes like this, up, up, right? And we go all the way up to that northwest corner off of Commercial and 82nd Avenue. As commissioners, I can tell you that Denise and I would tackle each problem, whether it is a southeast corridor problem or a northwest. Okay, there's flooding in the northwest. There's a battle in the southeast. With the sewer and the county and the brouhaha and so forth.
We're working on that right now.
And again, you have to the voters out there who I'm really talking to now. I'm looking into the camera and talking to. You got to make sure that the individuals that you are voting for have the tools in the toolbox to go to work from day one. Okay, I can walk down to Broward County government, any of the 5 floors, and get an appointment and be seen, because I worked there for 7 years. Okay, I can do the same with our neighboring cities. We're landlocked by 8 cities. Okay, I have individuals, whether elected or business leaders or civic leaders, not just in Lauderhill, but in our neighboring cities, because we have to be good neighbors at the end of the day, to make sure that we, again, change the narrative, embrace the agenda. The staff, sometimes staff gets beat up. I knock on one door and I hear that the staff in the city's doing great. Then I knock on the next door. Oh, yeah, I hope when you, when you become commissioner, you throw out the bums, because this and that. What's that old saying? You can't please all the people all the time. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, if you look at our budget, how the commissioners have held, the line on the millage rate, and when you look at the resources and the services that we have, when you look at the direction that the city is going in, when you look at the phenomenal job that the chamber has done. Okay, we have Solar Festival going in its 4th year, coming up next year in February. Okay, why was that important? The same way Jazz in the Gardens is important to the city of Miami Gardens. Okay, we don't always want to be in the news for the wrong reasons. We want to be in the news because guess what? When it was important to support Island Origins, John Beckford was there.
Yeah, John Beckford.
Those things are very important. And again, I'm solutions driven. The people that know me, know at the end of the day, whatever the challenge or the obstacle is,
you know which door to knock. You're gonna go knock on it.
There you go.
All right.
And look at Harlem. Harlem has completely transformed. I remember a time when they were giving away brownstones in Harlem for $1. Did you know that? And then it went up to $10,000 and so on. And now you cannot purchase a brownstone in Harlem for less than $3 million. Because someone came in with a vision and they delegated responsibilities to a staff that really believed in that vision. And they changed Harlem completely.
That led to some gentrification. So that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yes, it did. But at the end of the day, we have a new Harlem and there's great things happening in Harlem. And in every single city that is in the nation, you're going to have issues. Right? And you just have to be able to address those issues. I looked the other day at some things that are going on in Harlem because I was raised in New Jersey and I worked in Harlem for some time.
New Jersey, I lived in New Jersey too.
Yeah,
big up Plainfield.
Bergen County. But anyway, and worked in Harlem for a period of time, so I understand the history. And they have something called Harlem Week that is going on right now. And this is when they really celebrate the culture and the people of Harlem. And they have different restaurants come out and they showcase that and different venues and all of that stuff. And that is something that I would love to bring to Lauderhill. We don't want to compete with, like, say, a jazz. Why are you looking at her like that, David?
Huh?
You don't think that's a good idea?
Well,
You don't want to compete with a jazz.
If you want me to answer, I can answer why I looked at her. I was in Lauderhill today talking with the city of Lauderhill about producing an event there that's tied with the Taste Islands at the Lauderhill Museum.
Yeah.
So I was there meeting with Liz today, and we were discussing.
I think it's a fantastic idea to be able to. You know my.
That was another great.
That
was another great event, by the way.
Thank you very much.
That's Jersey humor. But you want to be able to showcase Lauderhill and be able to change the narrative.
Yes.
Because oftentimes you hear about little bit of nonsense that are going on here and there, and people don't realize that those things happen in every single city across the nation.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask this question. Do we want to run a little bit overtime? Is everybody okay to go like 15 minutes extra? Are we okay, production team, if we go a little extra?
And that would be a good idea, too, to bring your stuff into Lauderhill.
Yes. Hi to Willie Mae Cooper. How you doing?
All right, so whoever's watching, please go ahead and hit the share.
A lot of people say they're voting for you guys. A lot of committed voters flashing on the screen.
Yeah, hopefully they don't all live in D.C., but...
No, man. So Maria Monroe...
I'm sure they know people in Lauderhill.
Each one tell one, right?
And hit the share button.
Lauderhill.com.
And hit the share button. All right, so we got into somehow. I want to make sure that we're touching on all of your talking points.
I don't think we have enough time.
We don't have enough time, but we're going to try and do what we can do, right? So we talk. You touched on housing a while ago. Talk about what you plan to do to spur home ownership in Lauderhill and to just help to increase home values and all that kind of.
Home values are rising. One of the things that not just Lauderhill is facing, and that is affordable housing.
Yes.
You know, the cost of housing just continues to rise. But on the horizon, there are, and I know it was in the budget, there's a grant, and first of all, Lauderhill has a housing authority. And you look at the good job that they did with Windmere, and there's some other available properties that we can also invest in to make sure that we bring about some affordable housing. And then there's grants and programs, you know, that are in place that people can tap into. What we need to do is make sure that message gets out, which is why it's important. And I think Denise and I have been doing a great job in really sharing that message, you know, whether we're going on WZOP, one of their favorite, you know, Caribbean American radio stations here, you know, in South Florida. Big up my WZOP family, Mikey, Mike, Karen,
Sean.
Amija.
That was so Jamaican.
You know,
We can't escape it.
Right.
you know, but you know, the only hotel we have in the city under new ownership, new management.
Yes.
There's a plan to really develop that area where the 30 tennis courts that are now overgrown. It's going to be turned into some really wonderful housing footprint for like an Airbnb. And then the hotel itself is going to be a destination hotel. It's like a museum hotel. So what the new owner has done is kind of like gone back in time and captured the roaring days when Jackie Gleason, Marilyn Monroe, and President Ford and Nixon,
So they've
right,
themed it out,
used that as, you know, their little playground,
Right.
you know, in South Florida, and so that history is now being retold.
Nice.
You know, so again, Lauderhill, take a closer look.
Right.
You know,
So-
so that's going to be important, and that will spur, you know.
Interest.
Right, so the home values are increasing, but
They
you're
are.
also working on the affordability of the housing and making the area more welcoming. for
Right, and like John
families.
mentioned, that there's so many different programs that are already in place in the city. It's just a matter of getting the message out. So persons who are interested can actually go on the city website
Right.
and be able to see some of the programs that are available and call whatever department that is. That's the economic development, the housing department, excuse me, the housing department, and be able to find out some of the programs that are already in place to assist them. And then you want to be able to, as commissioners, you work with different organizations that can assist persons to be able to get to that place of home ownership. And one of the things that I want to do is, and this is not reinventing the wheel, but you want to make sure that individuals realize that credit is essential, right? And with credit, just because you own a home and you've gotten into the house doesn't mean that you take away from paying the light bill and all those stuff. You have to let them know that there's a lot of other things that are associated with that home ownership. And so we want to be able to work with programs that will be able to inform those individuals so that once they get into the home, they can keep the house. That's very important.
Right.
Because if they're able to keep the house, that it also helps not just their family and sustaining that, but also the city of Lauderhill as well.
I'm going to invite David to give our friend Chester Bishop a plug here because
Yeah.
we just did a conference with him where he
Yes.
talked about
I was
helping
there as
people.
well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Where he
Yeah.
talked about
You were there.
I sure was.
and you know what's interesting? You say give Chester a plug. Chester's work is long known, and
Another great human being, great individual, a great man, a great father.
Yeah.
That has really done a lot for many, many years, and has really helped folks, you know, get into homes. So.
And I think what specifically needs to be said here is that Chester has so many different divisions of his businesses. I wouldn't even want to get into.
What's the name of one of them that if people want to get into an affordable house?
Well, I think
Mortgagegrants.com. I think
Mortgage
is one of
Grants
them.
is definitely one of them.
Mortgagegrants.com, yeah.
But I think
You have the real estate arm as well.
Sue Realty. Sue Realty is the real estate arm. But I think part of what you have to understand with somebody like Chester, if we're going to mention someone who spends an inordinate amount of time trying to help people get into homes, is that he takes every different angle. He has title, he has real estate, he
Yes.
has mortgagegrants.com. He has all these different arms. And then what he does with the platforms is that he finds ways to help people specifically get incentive money to get into homes and then get the best deals to close those homes. So he really takes this sort of, I don't they have a term that they call, you know, it's like it's a full 360. It's like
Right.
everything that you need.
Right.
He has his hand in helping and assisting people
Right.
in all aspects. I think, I mean, for me, Sue Realty was my introduction to Chester and what he does, but there are so many more things.
So we're going to invite Chester onto the show because we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to move on
No,
to
but just to
Chester.
say, it's
But we're going into
important-
overtime. We're going
It's
into overtime.
important to when they get into the home for them to be able to know and have the tools in place to keep the house. Because we know what happened with that crash and the housing crash.
Right.
So we want to be able to get the people in the house, but educate them as well of how to be able to keep the home
Right.
long term.
Right.
That's very important. I think Chester also has a program.
getting it is
and Joma too. You know
is
Joma,
key.
right?
Yes.
Joma and her organization that assists with credit.
But we
and-
need to get away from the mentality of renting.
Yes.
You know, and I always try to counsel young folk, and I say, listen, don't delay. Buy anything anywhere because it's like a club. Okay, and so once you get in, getting the second home is a lot easier.
Right.
You know, versus well, I'm going to rent and because I'm waiting on this dream home and I'm going to save up and no.
That's foolishness.
Stop making your landlord rich. Okay, invest in yourself,
Right.
build up your credit, build up build up equity
Right.
in the property, and so if your first home has to be, on the side of the railroad tracks and when the train passes, it wakes you up. Suck it up, Buttercup, for 2 years, because
I don't know about that.
because eventually
For
see,
young people.
but
For young people. I'm an old foot.
you gotta you have to be in it to win it,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And renting it does not make you a winner.
And what you do when you have yours,
Paying
you
a
rent
mortgage
it,
does.
you find a better house
So.
and you move up and you rent that one out to
That's
somebody
my
else.
that's my
Absolutely.
And now somebody else will
That's
make
my
you
point.
rich landlord.
Exactly.
All right, so let's move on to education. Can I move on to education?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No,
Chester, you got your big. Look up Chester Bishop.
Chester.
Chester Bishop. All right, if you want.
Here's
the-
why I
the
love
plans,
education, because I love that it's one of those things, like I said earlier, where collaboration is the way to move forward, and specifically, these are candidates who have children, so they care intimately about what's happening in education.
Yes,
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 yes, yes.
I'm just gonna do this. I didn't want to do this today, but I'm going to do it. You have people like Jody Leshinsky and Winfred McPherson and Jackie Powell and all of your Lauderhill people who are watching the show.
Jackie Powell,
If you wanna
I
say
bubble
hi.
you. I punch Jackie Powell for judge.
It's not punch, shaded.
Please go
I'm
ahead.
giving away my age. There's no hanging chads anymore. No hanging chads.
Jackie actually wanted to be on with us this evening and could not because
Jackie
of a prior
is boss.
engagement. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are in the process right now who are watching. So we're going to invite you all to share, do all of that stuff so that we can get the messaging out for these two fabulous candidates. Whoever is calling me, I cannot take your call. All right. So back to education. I'm going to start here with Denise. You have done a lot in terms of supporting underprivileged kids with supplies in school. Like you had a long list of raising funds for book bags and books and lunch, what have you. How can you improve the educational outlook in Lauderhill overall as a commissioner? And then we'll go to
Yeah,
John.
when we talk about education, we have to realize that it is not as easy to really navigate. And the reason I say that is because the school board, there's so many red tape. I mean, it's unbelievable. But at the same token, when we talk about being able to improve, you have to know how to work with people who are already in place. And when you have a great relationship with individuals or they have a respect for you, then you can sit down and talk to them about some of the issues, and then they can go forth because they respect who you are.
But what are some
to
of
be
the,
able to
the goals that you would want to have to achieve? For
well,
example,
we want to be able to bring the grades of our schools up. I think that we now, I think last year we've done a tremendous amount.
We've done
in
good.
Going
Yeah.
from maybe some schools more so of a C to a B. But there were years back we were at D's and F's,
F's,
right?
yeah.
And so we are definitely working towards progress, but definitely making sure that the grades of our school are up, making sure that the teachers have the resources that they need in order to get the work done, making sure that the kids have what they need in order for them to be able to learn. And that's one of the reasons why I get involved in terms of making sure every year I partner with different companies that have the money to be able to provide resources for our children, whether they're book bags or books or various other things, whatever their needs are. And then I realized in doing that, I've been doing that for 6 consecutive years and recently just working with the Kiwanis Club of Lauderhill to be able to do that, and realizing that the kids need supplies, but the teachers do too. I was
Yeah.
like, what's up with that?
Yes.
But not realizing that there's not enough funding for the teachers as well. And sometimes because the teachers are responsible for providing a certain amount for their classrooms, and they don't really have the monies because we're not paying the teachers the way we're supposed to. So they have to allocate a certain amount of monies out of their own pay to be able to bring in supplies. So what I have done, being community chair with Kiwanis, is being able to work with different companies that have the resources to assist those teachers. And last year, under the leadership of Karel Chang, our president for Kiwanis, we were able to bring in about, let's say, $5,000 and be able to buy some resources for about 3 schools in Lauderhill, right? And those were primarily elementary schools. But now we're looking at the middle school and then the one high school we have as well, because they also have a need. So just to answer your question, making sure that our grades go up and making sure that the teachers have the resources that they need in order for them to get their work done and execute well, and making sure the kids are not concerned about supplies so that they can't function,
So they can
and
focus
that's
on the work.
very, very important.
Yeah.
Education is important.
Yeah, Kiwanis is one of the 1,024 things that that Denise does, and apparently she's chair of something.
Community chair.
I just
hello.
work here. I don't know. All right, so John, same thing for you, education.
Here's the key thing.
Yeah.
And Denise touched on some great points, and we both serve on the Lauderhill Kiwanis chapter. What we have to do as commissioners is to hold the school board members accountable that represent the schools in our city. My children are a product of public school. You know, my son goes to Parkway, and we have to make sure. And again, this is where I talk about having the experience and the tools in the toolbox. Okay, I was a part of the committee that kind of quarterbacked when the school board was courting Superintendent Runcie, to come down from Chicago and join us, and that, my how time flies. So at the end of the day, I have a relationship with Bob. I recently I was able to introduce through someone the mindfulness, programming, and that's coming to to the school board system. So at the end of the day, you got to have the tools in the toolbox. You got to have those relationships that that you can pick up the phone and you can have a conversation with Bob and say, hey, here's something, or here's an individual that I need for you to meet, and here's the platform, here's the program, and here's why it makes sense to bring to, not just for the teachers, but also it'll benefit the students. When you look at what happened, up in Parkland, you bring that mindfulness program online and a part of that, and that's another resource, okay, that's available for both students, faculty, and staff. So I'm committed. I have the experience. I have the knowledge to make sure that we hold our school board members accountable to make sure that the grades, continue to rise, and that our children, and again, my kids go to public school.
I wanted to ask
one more
So-
thing.
Yes.
And all of those things, the programs that he speak of, it costs money. That's the reality. So you want to be able to know that the commissioner or commissioners that you elect can go to Tallahassee again, realize what you need and be able to lobby for those particular issues so we can bring money back from Tallahassee into the city of Lauderhill.
Lobby away. All right. I like it. All right. So somebody had a question about security a while ago, and that's on both of your platforms, I believe. Please describe your background. This is from Alan Cunningham. Please describe your background and how you would utilize your experience and partnership with others.
Who is this Alan Cunningham?
I know.
Alan Cunningham.
Plug for people profile. Okay, you get a little plug.
Oh
And how?
People profile.
How would you?
Isn't that Dr. Alan?
Dr. Alan Cunningham. It's not on his Facebook name. It just says Alan Cunningham, right? And then how would you utilize your experience and partnership with others to make Lauderhill a safer place to live? I'm going to add on to that question. So there have been repeated instances of police brutality or profiling or whatever you want to call it, black men being shot or whatever. You just said that there's 70% black people in Lauderhill. I have seen over and over on news covering Miami police where they're using black people's mugshots or just regular pictures off the internet for shooting practice, all this kind of stuff. Is that any kind of concern in Lauderhill? What does safety and security look like in Lauderhill, and how are you going to improve whatever those concerns might be that your citizens have?
So, first and foremost, let me look into the camera and thank our police chief, Constance Stanley, for a tremendous and great job that she's doing. She rose up in the ranks of the Lauderhill Police Department. This is not a chief that we recruited from some other town, some other place in the good old USA. So she understands Lauderhill clearly. One of the challenges we've had is recruiting, okay? And there was a time when we were about 100 and some odd officers short, okay? That gap we've been able to close because what Chief Stanley has done was created a package that makes it super attractive for any current law enforcement officer to transfer, because you do get a signing bonus, okay? But also the whole training process is paid. And then we have one of the best pension plans available. And so, and another thing that Chief Stanley did was she has 2 officers that are dedicated to recruiting that actually go on the road. But, so the city went through, trying to use a staffing company. Staffing is part of my background. I have some tools again that I can bring, and I've been meeting with Chief Stanley. I have to refer to as Chief Stanley, but I know her as Connie. But I'm trying to be politically correct since we're live. But I've had conversations with Chief Stanley. I've shared some of the recruiting techniques and so forth that I've used. I've been a recruiter minus the 7 years that I worked in county government from 1985 to present. My background is staffing. So I can tell you this as a staffing professional, that the program that Chief Stanley has in place now to recruit officers is working. It's going to continue to work, and we're closing the gap on the shortage of police officers. Okay. Now, having said that, in my mind, part of the problem or part of the solution is having that pride, okay, in the home ownership, having pride in our community, making sure that at the end of the day, if you care about where you live, then I think you'll do some of the right things. We tackle so many different problems, in Lauderhill, but we're not, David mentioned earlier at the top of the hour, there's 31 municipalities in Broward County.
Right.
For some reason, somehow how the news is, if it bleeds, it leads. Right. And so oftentimes, we get caught up in the news for the wrong reason. Sometimes it's even an accident or an act of God. Remember that the FPNL pole that fell over and crushed a few houses. So it's just always it's always something. But I think the community needs to give law enforcement a chance. We have new officers that are coming on board, and so I think if we really allow them to matriculate into the city, and if we embrace them in the way that we should, okay, and not fear, we shouldn't live in fear of police. I mean, yes, there have been some issues around the U.S., but I don't think you want to paint.
But your police chief is a black woman.
Oh, she is.
Right.
She's probably a black mother as well.
Well,
He understands, and
yeah.
that's important. You finished on? Because
But-
I don't want to chime in.
And I don't like to chime in, of course. So let me just suck up all your Facebook. I'm taking it all.
You have 60 more seconds.
And we're counting.
I'm glad you mentioned that. But I could have said that.
Yeah.
Here's why I didn't say that. Because Chief Stanley is a police officer first.
Right.
Okay. I mean, yes, it's important that she's a black female
Yes.
police chief.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it's the badge and the honor that comes behind that badge. And so
Agreed, but in the context of the concern that is going on
Well,
in America
yes.
right now, that's why I brought it.
And
That's
one
why I
of the
brought it.
things that, for me to fully understand how they police in Lauderhill, what I did was I took a 10-week program. One of the other things I did, David.
what is this? 1024?
I took a 10-week program with the police department to be able to really understand what it is that they do.
Citizens on Patrol
Exactly.
is what it's called.
And understand what it is that they do and how they police our city. And I will tell you this, I applaud them for the work that they have done and the work that they're going to do in the future. They have a plan. And every single city has crime. That's just the reality. As we spoke of the narrative of Lauderhill, there are times when it's magnified a little bit more for whatever reasons. But last year we had a few homicides, just like in every other city. And one of the things that was the issue, yes, we didn't have enough police in Lauderhill. And what they have done is, it's not a budget issue, because I did speak with other persons as it relates to that, but it is an issue as it pertains to recruitment, right? And
Correct.
so now they have something in place where they are making sure that they're recruiting the right people. You don't want just anyone coming into your city just because they want a paycheck.
Yeah.
And the
people
city
to
has
be able-
retired, listen, just like how
And
there's
they've
bad
retired
doctors,
a lot of,
they've
and
retired
people have
and
come and
removed
people
some
have
bad guys.
gone, right.
Some bad
But you want to be
concepts.
able to make sure that the police officers that are coming into your city care about your city and understand your city. And they understand the demographics. So when you spoke of her being a black woman,
Yes.
I understand where you were coming from with that. Because even though it's one Lauderhill, we cannot move away from the fact that we have a strong black population. And you don't want people that don't understand the population to police, because then there could be some other issues. And one of the things that I want to do as a commissioner is I want to be involved in every single interview with those police officers that are applying to be police officers in Lauderhill. I want to sit in those interviews and be able to understand their heart. and
Because you
make
have
sure
so much
their
more
vision.
time on your calendar.
Because it's important, Khalid. Because
I know,
you
no,
want
you're right.
people. I have a black
Check that
child.
city charter. Make sure it's okay.
Listen, we understand the climate of America and what's going on, and we can't shy away from it.
Right.
And as a black woman, having a black child who happens to be a black boy, although I understand cultural diversity and I'm so much about that, born in Jamaica, out of many one people,
Yeah.
so we don't deal with racism.
Right.
Forget that.
Right.
But knowing that this child is going to be knowing that this child is going to be driving soon or whatever issues and walking the streets, you want to make sure that you have police officers that care about your children. And when they pull that child over, David, they're not looking at the color of the child's skin, but they're looking at the reason why they pulled the child over, what the issues are.
Right.
And that's very important.
Right.
I don't think that our police officers are those right now in Lauderhill that are biased at all.
Right.
Constance Stanley has made sure that those police officers understand the community. And some of the things they have done in order to even better understand the community is coffee with a cop and all
Slow
of
bike roll.
slow bike
I've been on that.
where
and,
they're
I've seen-
engaging with the community
Yes.
because they want you
I'm
to
telling you,
know
Yeah.
they're
Great
there
programs.
to
Okay.
protect the residents.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You
Fantastic.
got
It's
to
not an
take a
element of
closer
fear.
look. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. Lauderhill, take a closer look.
All right, we gotta
some
wrap it up.
But some of the crimes in Lauderhill too are young, a lot of them are young people that are just hanging out and doing various things, and they're breaking.
My granddaddy would call them knuckleheads.
Idle hands.
Right.
All right. So we know you're working on some initiatives for young people and older people, and
of course.
Both. So at the end of this, none of our viewers can say these guys don't know what they're talking about. They have demonstrated that they intimately know the ins and outs of everything to do with Lauderhill. We congratulate you. I'm already going to call you Commissioner Grant and Commissioner. This is Commissioner Grant and Commissioner Beckford to you. All right. John and Denise to me. Don't get too familiar, right? So before we go, though, I want to do this quick fire, and then let's do the ads again so we can give DMR a plug. And if you guys have the video from the rap video for Tasty Islands Experience, we can put that in at the end as well. All right. So quick fire questions. Not for you this time. Oh yeah, I'm going to ask you too. All right. Favorite Jamaican food? Go quick.
Oh God, favorite Jamaican food. Oh my gosh, curry tripe and butter beans.
John Beckford, favorite Jamaican food, real quick.
Oxtail.
All right, David Muir.
Well, I have too many favorites, but it's for the show today. I'm going to go with mala chicken.
All right, I'm a brown stew.
I've never heard of that.
Favorite reggae song, Mr. Beckford, real quick.
One Love, Bob Marley.
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Favorite song?
Yes.
Well, it's too many again. I'll go with One Blood.
All right.
Junior Reid.
All right, I don't know.
Oh cherry, oh cherry.
All right. If you had, I'm not asking you this one. If you had a theme song, let's start with Commissioner Grant. What would your theme song be?
Theme song. Okay. I was born a winner.
I like that. All right.
Yes.
Theme song.
Same song.
Cheater. Commissioner Beckford, what is your? You like how that sounds, right? What is your
nice ring to it.
I know. What is your motto in life?
Always be solutions driven.
Okay.
If purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable.
I like how all of those just rolled off your tongue. All right. Thank you both so much for being with us. I'm going to give you one more quick opportunity to just give your plugs where people can donate, website, whatever you want to do. Just real quick.
I am Denise D. Grant, and I'm running for City Commissioner of Lauderhill, seat 4. The election is November the 6th, 2018, and we are asking you to go out and vote. It is very important if you want someone who is going to be your voice. And, Lord of mercy, my social media people usually do this, but you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat.
Yeah, just look up Denise D. Grant.
That one.
Please don't mess. They're going to cut that out.
And we're making it. Please donate.
Donate. All right. Mr. Commissioner Beckford.
Candidate John George Beckford, running for Lauderhill City Commissioner, seat 2. My website is Beckford, the number 4, Lauderhill.com. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Beck4Lauderhill. So the donate button is right there on the homepage. Even if you can't donate, at least like our pages. Denise and I are out here working hard to represent the great folks that call Lauderhill home. We're proud to call Lauderhill home. Thanks again to Island Origins for having us this evening. Hello Lauderhill. Hello Lauderhill Chamber. Hello Alan. Hello. I mean, the list goes on and on. But, from the school teachers to the janitors.
Jackie Young. Janet Young.
Janet Young, okay. Speaking of Jackie Powell.
Yeah.
Good luck.
This plug is gonna.
Joel,
We're gonna go ahead.
Studio with us.
I want to thank my team. Jody Lashinsky, Maria Monroe,
I just played them off the stage. Thank you both. Thank you both for being on set with us. This is Mr. Sexy Man running for Sexiest of All Time.
That's for
I'm
sure.
Calibe Thompson. I just work here. Thank you so much for watching us. We're gonna wrap it up, of course, with our plugs for our friends at DMR Media. If you want this type of fantastic multi-camera switchy setup, I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but
this camera,
exactly. Magic and Judy can do that that for you. Go ahead and tell them that you saw them on Island Origins. All right. So so anything you need in video production, live production, we're coming to this one as well, right? Go ahead. It's dmr4u.com and info@dmr4u, and of course it's brought to you by us at Island. Or here, Mr. Sexy Man is on the phone, so I'm going to give you this so we can do our plug. We're going to look into the middle camera, and just say plugs to Island Origins. If you do not have a copy, we may be out for the quarter already. We may have run out. You may be able to get one at one of the upcoming events that we are at. Sorry, you know, it happens. But you can always go to islandoriginsmag.com. There's some great stories on there, including some of the award winners, and Chef Tia's story of her survival of assault is up there right now on one of the front pages. And we are going to wrap it up this evening with the rap video for our recent Taste the Islands experience.
Oh, that's a good video. Yes, yes. That was wonderful.
I agree. Yes. And we hope to see you all next year. And of course, sorry. Before we go, hold on. Before we go, I have scored an interview with with our gubernatorial candidate, Mr. Andrew Gillum. I believe that's going to be 5 o'clock on Saturday. The time is not 100% confirmed, but please look out for the time. And it's definitely going to be on Saturday. DMR is going to be there as well. So we're going to have a great conversation with our potentially our next governor, Mr. Mayor Andrew Gillum. Am I saying right? Okay, Andrew Gillum.
Mayor of Tallahassee.
Mayor of Tallahassee.
Great
all right.
Candidate.
So until next week, we will see you all later. Bye.
Hello, I'm Blue Arouse, and we're at the 2018 Taste the Islands Experience. At this festival, you're going to be fully immersed in the food, culture, and drinks of the Caribbean. Countries like Barbados, Haiti, and Jamaica, plus much, much more are going to be featured, and I'm going to take you to eat food and try some of the rums of the Caribbean. How did the idea for this festival come about?
Wow, well, first of all, Taste the Islands is a television show. It's on 44 states nationwide. The show has been so popular that we said, hey, we want to bring the experience out here to the masses. We are such a great melting pot with so many different cultures. It's just amazing that we can have it all here in one space in Greater Fort Lauderdale.
There's abundance of food, but there's an abundance of culture here. You name it, it's here in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale.
If you didn't make it this year, we hope to see you next year.